Let's shift our attention now to the Pokuase interchange, where suspected thieves disguised as construction workers have stolen crash barriers valued at $3,500 at the newly commissioned interchange. Now, resident engineer Kwabena Buampong revealed the criminals have also started tampering with the street lights at the interchange in order to steal them. Maxwell Agbagba has more in this report.
Pokuase interchange was commissioned by President Akufo-Addo sometime in July this year. Well, many of the residents here were excited when it was commissioned because it reduced the travel time and reduced the traffic congestion usually in this part of town. Residents we've been speaking to witnessed how the unscrupulous persons stole the crash barriers.
We encountered some people, about 5 people with a truck. And they were working on it. We thought they were working on it. It was at dawn, around 5:30. When we were coming from the church. Yeah. So when we met them, we didn't ask them anything because we thought they were part of the contractors that are working or engineers that are working on the road. So we passed by, but as soon as we got to the entrance of our gate, we saw them moving the car, that means leaving. But we realized that they have removed the thing from that end, where the last metallic pillar is, to the last end there, where they have, fixed the new ones. So they moved. We were here 3 days later. I saw some of the workers in the afternoon walking around, and now that you have helped us with it, you have come back to remove it. And the guy told me they were not the people who came to remove it, but it was rather strange people who came in to steal. And I was surprised because the way they did the thing, you will not suspect them of stealing. And they did it professionally, because their dressing and the way they were walking will not make you suspect anything.
Yeah, we heard they were wearing reflectors.
Yeah, they were wearing reflectors. Reflectors, and some of them were wearing overall, like workers.
Resident engineer of the Pokuase interchange, engineer Kwabena Buampong, says the crash barriers that were stolen are valued at a total cost of $3,500. He says they've already picked up signals that some unscrupulous persons want to steal some street lights on the interchange too.
We observed that about 10 sections of our crash barrier had been stolen or removed by unauthorized or unknown persons. And this is about 40-meter length. And we then proceeded to report to the police, after some time. And you asked about the costs. Presently, it's about $3,500 US. There is an operation or modus operandi of those who steal these streetlights, and what they do is that they start by tampering with their connections, and that virtually plunges the whole system, or the whole road into darkness. And then sometimes they come under the cover of darkness to remove the luminaires, or you can see them in broad daylight removing these luminaires. And we have seen some signs which presupposes that there are plans to do that, and that is why we have come public. But
so you've seen signs that some people want to steal the streetlights?
Exactly so. Because we've seen the covers opened, and in some cases the switches have been turned off, and this has alerted us to the operations of this syndicate who have done similar things on other roads. The Gifford Road, they have been to the that is the N1 the N1 itself, which is part of the motorway from Tema to Accra. Yeah. So once we say this, we want to caution the public to be on the lookout. Yeah.
We understand sometimes they even wear reflectors, so you think they are workers.
Yeah, exactly so. You see them in reflectors, and even for the street light, they come with let me explain. You see them in that conveyor that takes them up, okay, and they will be removing the street lights. Yes, so you might think that they work for the contractor, but these people sometimes do not work for the contractor.
Finally, what do you think can be done about this situation?
Well, I think that I have said elsewhere that policing is a shared responsibility. If any of us see people who look suspicious, there's a need for us to ask questions. I think that where we always think that, oh, these people, or we assume that these people are working for the contractor or for the road ministry, I think that we should begin to question people. You know, if they have ID cards, we want to see them. If we want to take pictures, and look, I have done that. Okay, I have done that on projects where I see somebody, I ask you, where are you coming from? He says, oh, this man says I should do. I say, okay, if this man says I want to take a picture of you, and then they become, you know, jittery. Once they become jittery, then that should tell you that these people have not been mandated or sanctioned to do whatever they are doing, and they could be thieves. You know, there are these scrap dealers who go around stealing manhole covers. You put a manhole which is supposed to protect, you know, both pedestrians and motorists, and then they go stealing them. You know, so this is something that I would want the public to be on the lookout. And of course, our enforcement agencies, the police, and all who are involved in security, the national security, should be on the lookout for such people.
A worrisome development indeed. But here at Joy News, we've been asking the question, what has become of the Ghanaian, and why will people stoop so low? Chief Policy Analyst at GIPO, Dr. Charles Reku-Brobe, Chairperson of the National Commission for Civic Education, Josephine Nkrumah, and former Commissioner of Shraj, Emil Short, all of whom featured on the AM show this morning, blamed the phenomenon on the current individualistic nature of the Ghanaian.
I think these things have been with us from time immemorial. The question is the frequency with which we see it now, and actually the apathy with which we are treating this. So yes, we do see all of these things and they go unchecked. But previously, you would see this, but as we had more of a sense of a communal spirit, and people thought that what we owned was collective. And to that extent, when somebody sought to destroy something that was seen as communal, communities or persons in the community would rise against you. We are increasingly seeing a more selfish and individualistic society, and largely what I do is my business, and to that extent is no one else's business. And what somebody else does is his or her business, and to that extent is not my business. And so we see a lot of these things. Some of us would rant and rave, but taking that step to correct it has largely gone undone. I think it's also a question of institutions and what role they play in ensuring that these are not done. So institutions that are not being properly resourced and are unable to perform their mandate. So for instance, you'd see this, as we see this street light bent towards the road. You may very well find that a citizen may have reported it, but has the district assembly taken steps to correct it, to repair it? These are some of the questions we should also be asking. I think when we're talking about this, what comes to the fore for me as a civic educator is our rights and responsibilities as citizens. And if you read Article 41 of the Constitution on the duties of a citizen, one cardinal duty of a citizen is to combat the misuse of government of state property and to protect state property. To what extent do we understand what is state property? And even if we do, we see this kind of misuse or destruction of state property at this level, at the common man's level. But what about misuse and plundering of state resources, state assets, and the public purse even at a higher level. So it's actually a transcendence of a trait that pervades our society from the top all the way down to the bottom. And it takes a question of revisiting our values as a country to try and unravel some of these things and find some solutions to it. And I have said in the past that it does not matter the amount of investment we put in infrastructural development until we understand that perhaps our greatest investment should go in the human development and social development of our people, of our mindset. Then, like you saw, we will build beautiful roads, put all the street lights, but they will get destroyed. We would build beautiful gutters and we would throw rubbish in it and it will block out drains. And sadly, we'll just see money literally going down the drain. So to my mind, we need to reset our priorities as a nation and begin to intentionally direct investment resources to institutions and the citizen in terms of our mindset transformation and development.
There's no proactivity. The councils are not taking steps to inform the public. You know, I heard David say they should get to know. How do they get to know if they are not informed? I'll tell you, Israel, the few times I've corresponded with my council, the one thing that I noticed on their letterhead is that there isn't even a telephone number to call anybody to follow up. You know, deliberately they don't put phone numbers on their things. And so I think, you know, we need to, first of all, make sure that the councils have the capacity. I mean, we have decimated so many councils into little units, which I don't think really are effective. You know, if you see a problem in Accra, where do you talk to AMA and where do you talk to Ayawaso and where do you talk to somebody else? So there needs to be knowledge about how to be a good citizen, provided by both the councils, the electricity corporation, which has got responsibility, the police, the security system, etc. If that is provided, and then people don't respond, then you can say we have irresponsible citizens. But until you get them properly informed on how to act, I'm sorry, you can't blame the citizens. I think the basic problem here is organized theft, and I think we should see it as that. I think the petty things of people removing, let's say, nameplates or house plates from outside houses, that I think is a problem of one of the hardships that we're having to deal with because people are finding it difficult to make ends meet. I think there's a place for good upbringing at home, but there's also a place for letting the citizen know what their responsibilities and their rights and obligations are.